Hi fiber friends, Nicole here with Loom Studios. Today I am going to teach you how to wind a skein of yarn if you do not have an umbrella swift or a ball winder. Because somehow, with 2 degrees in fiber art and 13 years of knitting under my belt, I still don't have either of those. There are a few different ways to do this. I am going to show you one that involves beans. What? I don't know. Let's go find out. Today I'm using garbanzo beans because I'm married to a Lebanese man that likes to cook. Hummus is our life. We're going to start by just unlooping one end from the other. Then we can see we have a big loop. And I am going to show you how I'm going to arrange this on my desk to wind it into a ball of yarn. Probably the only video on YouTube where I use cans of beans to help me make a ball of yarn. I'll meet you over here. The first thing I'm going to do is unwind my hank or skein of yarn. So it's looped together. Usually there are a few different knots in it. I really only see this one. So I'm going to take 1 can of beans. Got 1 can of beans over here. One on the other side. I should explain why the cans are here. If I left this just a ball on the table, as I started winding, it would want to shrink in on itself, the fibers stick to each other, wool wants to stick to wool. So if I did not have anything separating the ends, it would be a mess. It would be better if I had something to keep these a little bit more taut, because threads under tension don't tangle. There's a sign in my undergrad fiber department. So I am going to, you can see the threads are kind of tangled up already, but I found one end and I'm just pulling a few lengths out. I'm actually going to rotate this because where I'm pulling from was on the inside, and this is going to make my life a bit easier. Here I have one end of the yarn. I'm going to start by wrapping it around my fingers until it's about this much. Width-wise, it depends on if you're doing something thinner, you'll have less wraps. I think I had 5 or 6. So now I'm going to take it off of my fingers, pinch it and turn it 90 degrees, and then wrap so that's closed. And then when that starts to get big, I kind of fold in my first 2 sides, turn it 90 degrees. This part, it tends to unravel, so I usually just do 2 or 3 wraps, pulling around from the can of beans when you need to. So I do a few wraps, turn, a few wraps, and as this gets bigger, you can have more and more wraps for each. You'll have more wraps between turns as it starts to get bigger. Sometimes it slides off, try to just kind of slide it back on and secure it in another direction. So at this point, I'm turning it about 90 degrees every time. So I'm kind of building a weird little UFO. And then as it starts to get bigger, you can do it at kind of different angles, trying to keep it round. Sometimes if you do too many wraps in a row, it'll unravel really easily, and that can become more tangled in this process and in the process of knitting, which I don't think anyone wants to stop and untangle yarn in the middle of knitting when you're in a good flow. I will also say, if you don't have plans for yarn like this, leaving it as a skein will help prevent it from sticking together and felting to itself. So wait until you have a plan for the yarn to ball it up. Ignore my creaky floors. I live in a 100-year-old house. So sometimes if it sticks a little bit, you might just want to go in and kind of pull some of the layers of thread apart to help ball it up. And now I'm at the point where I'm not really turning at 90 degrees. I'm turning to keep it round. I'm going to pull out 2 lengths at a time. Sorry, I knocked the light. Hope that's not bothering anyone too much. So just wrapping around. And once my ball gets bigger is when I start to undo 2 wraps at a time. If you do that when it's still small, there's a higher chance of it tangling. But since the ball is bigger, each wrap goes a lot further than when it's smaller. So I'm never really doing more than 10 wraps in any one spot. I think 8 is usually what I do when the ball starts to get bigger, and that's just my own natural rhythm. I don't really count. Oops. So you can see the yarn is getting excited to be with its friends, so it's jumping up a little bit. At this point, I'm not too concerned because there's really only 1 loop left around there. It looks like there's 2, but that's just the shadow. So now our need for cans is done, and we have a ball of yarn. We did it! Thanks so much for joining me in this shorty episode of Loop and Loom Studios, where we used some cans of beans to wind a ball of yarn. Let me know if you want some other weird, I don't have expensive fiber equipment hacks, because I have a ton of them. Because fiber tools are expensive, and I don't know, I don't have money. Comment below, is this weird? Is this the stupidest ball winding video you've ever seen? Or is it the best? Comment below, let me know. Join me for the next video. We're doing lots of knitting tutorials coming up. Apart. It's a horrible noise. I need to stop. Okay.